In a city where neon light hides the truth and shadows whisper of things unseen, the line between man and monster is fragile. Some chase justice, others chase vengeance. But in the end, the veil shatters for us all. This is Shattered Veil, Episode 10, Whispers Beneath the River. Morning comes thin and brittle, a film of gray stretched over streets that still remember the night. The cracks in the sky are quieter now, but no one trusts quiet that arrives this late. Keon walks beside the river with his collar up and his jaw set. The photograph of Aya warming one side of his chest like a small, steady fire. Rin keeps pace, the glow behind her eyes muted to a careful ember, the aftertaste of the rift still lingering in her bones. The river looks innocent at a glance, a wide sheet of pewter sliding past warehouses and stone. But Rin slows at the railing, eyelids drooping, head tilting as if listening in a foreign tongue. Do you hear it? Keon hears engines and gulls and the telltale clank of a barge. I hear the city. Under that, she murmurs. The water keeps a breath that isn't water. It's carrying voices, bodies, he asks. Memories, she says, and something that wants to be a command. They trade a look that means the same thing in two different languages. We go anyway. Keon is turning from the railing when a small hand slips between the iron bars and lays a folded note on the stone ledge. He catches only the flash of a sleeve before the figure melts into morning. He opens the note. 3 words glisten in wet ink. Do not descend. Rin almost smiles. In this city, that's a staircase. He flips the note. Rin measures powders by instinct rather than scale. Jaw tense, hands steady. Keon checks the cylinder key they found weeks ago in a case left to hum under ash. Its runes have dimmed, but the metal still remembers what doors should feel like. He reloads the revolver, each round seating with a click that pleases him in some corner he rarely admits exists. The bell rings. Ryo fills the doorway, unarmed and exhausted. His eyes carry the color of the river on storm days. Don't go, he says. Keon's answer is a single word. Move. Ryo doesn't. The tunnel you used before is seeded with new eyes. The locks down there learned new names. You won't come back the way you went in. We'll choose a different way to return, Keon says. Rin studies Ryo as if checking a fever. Why warn us? Because I remember a kitchen with burnt eggs, Ryo says, voice roughened by loyalty he never stopped paying for. Because I wasn't there when it mattered the first time. He lowers his voice. The nurse who wrote that note in the clinic file, the one who held Aya's hand, she still breathes. Nights at Meridian, mornings where rent demands. She'll meet you at the river if you knock 3 times and say the name only family used. Keon knows it before he chooses to know it. Acha. Ryo nods. If she answers to it, she's still reachable. If you aren't back by dawn, I'll foul the paper trail. That's what I can spend. Keon passes him without thanks. Rin lingers a heartbeat. If they're holding a knife to your back, say so. They are, Ryo says. And I'm standing just crooked enough they think it's still in. The intake station waits at the river's edge like an old animal pretending to sleep. Brick stained with time, windows fogged by dust, a door that yields to a shoulder and a promise. Inside, the air smells like filtered absence. A woman stands in the opening, hair pinned too tightly, eyes that won't obey any pin. She holds herself with the stiffness of someone who has learned how not to tremble when the glass is watching. You're late, she says. I'm Hana. You wrote the note, Keon says. I held her hand, Hana answers. She said your name like it was a breath she wasn't allowed to keep. Rainbows, gratitude with edges. Can you show us where they kept her? Where they put her? Hana corrects gently. Yes, the pipes are listening. Walk like you know how. They descend into a throat of concrete and iron. Water speaks beneath the floor, a long, patient argument. The corridor opens to a chamber of catwalks over black water and breathing machines. Doors line the far, wall-thick square windows at eye level, like curious, cruel eyes. Hana stops at the third. Here, the room beyond is small. A bed, a sink, a mirror bolted too firmly to be a harmless thing. Above the bed, scratched into the paint, a 5-pointed star with the left point slightly bent. Keon's breath shudders. His thumb finds the bend, as if the mark were a doorbell. He kneels and searches the bed frame, fingers probing the metal's seams. A small bundle waits there, wrapped in cloth, soft with handling. He opens it to blue, dulled almost gray, a ribbon that once outran the wind, and a paper crane folded with the stubborn hope of people who make things when they cannot make outcomes. Rin's throat tightens. She kept herself from unraveling. Hana stands in the doorway and refuses to blink. The woman in red visited sometimes, not often enough to be routine, enough to matter. After she left, the mirrors hummed louder. Aya slept than the way people sleep when they're trying to hold a dream still. Where did they take her next? Keon asks, folding the ribbon with a care that hurts. Down, Hana says, to the reservoir vault. The water pressure carries sound away and returns silence that feels like permission. They move quickly. The whisper of the pipes lifts into words, and Rin repeats them to box them in. Follow the red, turn left at the dead light. Don't look into the long glass. Breathe only when told. Hana grimaces. That's how they teach obedience. Drip it into air. The long glass finds them anyway, a corridor, paneled in mirrors that multiply their faces to the horizon. Rin drops her gaze to the bolts in the grating. Keon studies numbers screwed into angles. A voice glides along the glass, warm and wrong. Careful, little alchemist. Once the glass learns your face, it expects visits. We're not here to visit, Keon says. We're here to take someone home. Home, the voice purrs. A child's word for a room that agrees with you. They spill from a long glass into a cathedral of water. Pillars bead cold. Catwalks curl down to a circular platform, armored in instruments, pretending not to be restraints. Hana pries open a console and forces it to forget how to observe. Lights sputter into harmlessness. Rin goes to the racks, where vials glimmer faintly blue and green that mean different accidents. She chooses 3 by memory and fear, mixes them with a precision learned from a mother who left too many recipes and too few apologies. What is it? Keon asks. A stillness, she says, for hearts that learned hunger from someone else's mouth. Hours, maybe a day. Enough to hear a person without the echo shouting answers. Footfalls answer from the far corridor. Ryo steps onto the catwalk with 2 plain men behind him. He looks at the room like a man negotiating with his conscience at full volume. Keon doesn't raise the gun. He does not need to. You brought an audience, Keon says. I brought witnesses, Ryo replies. If you die here, I will make sure the sentence reads the way it should. We're not dying, Keon says. We're collecting. Rin's fingers brush dials until one resists and then yields. If she was here, the pattern of her pulse will have stained something. The needle settles into a rhythm she recognizes, a quiet between spikes. She keys a sequence. A cabinet opens with a sigh. A bracelet lies inside on velvet. A star charm, the left point bent, familiar as an old scar. Kion reaches, and then stops, his own hand. Rin meets his eye. If it's bait, we take the teeth out when we bite. He lifts the bracelet. The vault cools a degree. The pipes lower their gossip to a common hum one. The woman in red will hear wherever she stands. Hana doesn't wait for the warning to find words. We go. They are halfway to the dredge hatch when the air changes quality, acquiring a taste of crushed raspberries and polished copper. The woman in red is not there in any way a camera cares to document, but she is present in the behavior of metal and light. She walks without touching the catwalk, or perhaps the catwalk hurries to meet her feet. You took a trinket, she says cheerfully. Would you like the wrist that wore it too? Or are you collecting souvenirs for a museum that never opens? Where is she? Kion asks. Everywhere a mirror keeps a promise, the woman answers, amused by her own cruelty. Her gaze warms for Rin. You brood a lullaby. Dangerous lullabies fool themselves into thinking they are medicine. It will give her back a day, Rin says. Sometimes a day is a door. A door to what? The woman asks. To time, which is a hallway lined in regret. To truth, which chokes when you swallow it too fast. She leans close, violet in her eyes, a glow learned from somewhere too near. You think you're rescuing a sister. You are undermining an art. She is almost finished. Ryo cuts across her theatrics. The vault locks in minutes. For you, the woman says, not bothering to look his way. Rooms are always kinder to curators. She smiles at Rin. Run along. See whether a day is as generous as you think. Hana yanks the dredge wheel. The hatch lifts with a wet exhale. They drop into cold that refuses to become kindness. The tunnel is narrow, slick, and angry at the idea of human lungs. They crawl, then wade, then swim, because there is no other verb left. Behind them, steel engages steel with a sound that ends rooms. They surface under a grating in a culvert that pretends it is a creek when the city is in a good mood. Tonight, it is a throat. Rin drags herself onto the bank and laughs once from relief. Kion comes second, clutching the bracelet high to keep the river from teaching it a new song. Hana emerges last, breathing the way nurses do, efficiently, with no time for panic. Kion passes Rin a canteen. She swallows, frowns. That tastes wrong. He recognizes it, a heartbeat later bitter, under mint, an almost clean that isn't. He flings the canteen aside. Rin sways as if the horizon slipped. Hana is already at her shoulder with a small tin open, powders marrying water with ruthless speed. Eyes on me, she says, and tilts the slurry into Rin's mouth. Rin coughs, grimaces, swallows. It tastes like the underside of bridges, she says. Good, Hana answers. Bridges hold. They keep Rin upright, with questions and small work. Count back from strange numbers. Name 3 herbs that smell like rain. Describe your first lie. Rin answers, through the dizziness, the glow behind her eyes, refusing to flare or die, settling where a human future can bear it. When the shaking fades, Rin leans her head against Kion's shoulder and whispers, still here. Stay, he says, and does not bother hiding the plea. Not the shop, Hana says. They'll be waiting with apologies that end badly. We ghost ourselves, someplace the city forgot. The church knows them by now. Mara sits on the steps, with her knees tucked under her chin, hair tangled as ever, eyes older than they should be. She watches them approach and looks at the bracelet in Kion's wet hand. You found a piece that remembers her. We found where she slept inside, a day with no edges, Kion says. Next, we find where she wakes. Mara nods. She came to the door in my dream last night, she whispers. She said the woman in red kept combing her hair and saying, "You're almost perfect." Rin lowers herself onto a fallen beam. The vial she mixed in the vault sits in her palm like a soft green star. This should quiet the hunger long enough for her to choose with her own mouth. Kion studies the bracelet, thumb on the bent point. Then we have a day to remake a life. Hana sinks down across from them, back against charred stone. Ryo will slow the alarms where he can, stain logs, misfile times. The fox will let him until it amuses him to stop. She closes her eyes for the length of a breath and opens them again. You have until curiosity becomes correction. Kion looks at Rin. The question in his eyes is not whether they will try, but how hard they will allow themselves to fail before calling it a mercy. Rin answers the only way that matters. We don't surrender her to their art, or to our fear, he says. Mara scoots nearer, child small and battle-hardened in her own way. If the glass sings too loud, I'll cover my ears, she says. Teach me the songs you use. Rin smiles tiredly. We will, but ours don't ask people to kneel. Night settles, not kindly, but not cruelly either. The four of them share bread Mara, saved from a bakery that doesn't know it feeds a revolution. They speak softly because soft words remember better. Plans take shape. A route through alleys that avoid mirrors. A contact who can black out a block for 7 minutes. A warehouse with a second-floor window that looks onto the exact door they need to open. Kion pockets the bracelet and the paper crane. Rin tucks the vial against her heart, as if warmth will remind it what kind of medicine to be. When sleep comes, it comes in shifts and grudges. Kion does not dream the long glass. He dreams a kitchen and a laugh and a ribbon, and wakes with a fist closed around absence. Rin does not dream ash. She dreams a garden that refuses to die and wakes with dirt under the nails of her mind. Hana sleeps with her back to the door, the way people do when they've earned habit the hard way. Mara sleeps with one eye half open in case the building decides to need her. Dawn will ask for speed. It will ask them to be louder than the river for once. Kion watches the stained light crawl up the broken wall and decides that if love is a chain, then he will use it to drag a door off its hinges. Rin props herself on an elbow and decides that if sight is a curse, then she will teach it manners. Somewhere else, the fox closes a ledger and opens a mirror. And the woman in red hums while combing a girl's hair that glows faintly in the dark. Tomorrow, Kion says into the gray. We take her hand. We don't let go. Tomorrow, Rin answers. And the vow hangs in the ruined church like a bell that will not stop ringing until someone answers. Thank you for watching Shattered Veil. If this episode carried you deeper beneath the city, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. The river's whispers have led to a door, but the key may demand a price. Stay tuned for episode 11, Sister of the Abyss.